You think you're in control, but the truth is, a far darker impulse has been pulling your strings from the very start. Every man has a forbidden desire he can't admit. It's not weakness, it's the silent hand shaping his choices, his pride, even his love. Welcome tonight. We expose the hidden corners of desire, underlying motives, and inner battles. If you've ever felt a profound unease, stay, this is for you. Like this video, subscribe if you're ready to unveil the illusions that control you. Take a slow breath. Let's go deeper. The city lights were a river of neon, washing over the slick, black asphalt outside the window. It was late, the kind of late where the noise of the world finally quiets down and all you can hear is the hum of your own thoughts. My friend, let's call him Elias, sat across from me. He was a man who had built a small empire out of nothing, a classic success story. He had the sharp suits, the expensive watch, the kind of calm confidence that made others lean in when he spoke. But tonight, that mask had slipped. His eyes were fixed on his glass, not me. He was a million miles away, and I knew why. He was caught in a loop, a very specific, very dangerous kind of loop. For months, he had been wrestling with a decision, a choice that seemed to define his very identity. A new partnership, a huge deal that would double his net worth overnight, but it felt wrong. Every fiber of his being was screaming at him to walk away, to trust his gut. But his pride, his ambition, the very foundation of the man he had built himself up to be, told him to stay, to push through, to conquer. He saw it as a battle between logic and intuition, a fight between a good man and the coward inside him. He didn't realize it wasn't a choice at all, it was a single, dark force playing both sides. It was the desire for external validation masquerading as ambition. It was the fear of being seen as less than, dressed up as courage. Most men, just like Elias, are trapped in this same quiet prison. They chase power not because they truly want it, but because they fear being powerless. They seek out success not for the joy of creation, but to silence the phantom whispers of inadequacy. They build fortresses of achievement around themselves, but what they're really doing is locking themselves inside. The desire you fight hardest, the impulse you try to ignore, that isn't a flaw, it's the conductor. It's the silent, unseen gravitational pull that shapes your path. You believe you're moving forward on your own terms, but you're simply following the orbit of that single, powerful urge. Think about a time you made a decision that you knew, deep down, wasn't for you. It might have been staying in a bad job, chasing a woman you knew was wrong for you, or getting into a conflict you didn't truly believe in. You told yourself it was about honor, or loyalty, or a sense of duty. You put on a good show, even for yourself. But if you're brave enough to look in the mirror, you'll see the truth. The choice was never really yours. You were simply responding to a different kind of master, one you refused to acknowledge. That is the first and most important step to understanding the game of power. It's not about who has the loudest voice, or the biggest empire, or the most money. It's about who truly holds the strings, and for most men, that puppeteer is their own unacknowledged desire, their own fear. They think they're the hero of their story, but in reality, they're just a character playing a part they were too afraid to reject. This is the forbidden realization, the uncomfortable truth that sits in the pit of your stomach. We're taught to be strong, to be decisive, to be in control, but what if the very things we're told make us powerful are actually the chains that bind us? What if the desire for power, the relentless pursuit of more, is just a sophisticated distraction from the real game? The game isn't about winning or losing, it's about who sets the rules. Elias didn't lose his deal because he made the wrong choice. He was losing because he was playing a game he didn't understand, against an opponent he couldn't see. He was so busy fighting the symptoms, the bad feeling in his gut, the unease in his soul, that he never stopped to look for the source of the disease. The sickness isn't in the world outside you. It's in the quiet, desperate part of you that craves validation, that fears rejection, that will do anything to avoid being seen as weak, and that part is a master manipulator. It whispers in your ear, telling you that you need to be bigger, louder, richer. It tells you that every risk is a chance for glory. But it never tells you that the true power, the kind of power that can't be taken away, comes from within. It comes from understanding yourself, your own desires, and your own fears so deeply that they can no longer control you. It comes from finally taking back the strings that have been pulling you all this time. Elias couldn't see this. He was a prisoner in his own mind, and he didn't even know it, but that's only the surface. The real danger hides deeper. Elias stared at his reflection in the dark window, not seeing a man, but a ghost of the man he thought he was. The rain had started now, a soft drumming against the glass, mirroring the anxiety that had begun to pound in his chest. He had been so focused on the battlefield outside, the deals, the rivals, the numbers, that he had failed to see the war raging within. This isn't about ambition anymore, this is about shame. Most men don't realize. The fear of being exposed is a far more powerful motivator than the desire for success. The shame of weakness, of being less than, is a silent master that drives a man to extremes he would never consciously choose. Elias was about to sign this massive contract not because it was the best business move, but because he was terrified of what people would think if he backed down. He was haunted by the memory of his father, a quiet man who had always chosen the safe, humble path. Elias saw that as a failure, a stain he was desperate to scrub clean with success. But in doing so, he was allowing that old, inherited shame to dictate his every move. Think about the last time you felt a deep, gut-wrenching reluctance to do something, yet you did it anyway. Was it a challenge to your authority, a public slight? A moment when you felt your pride was on the line? Most men will tell themselves it was about standing their ground, about being strong. But if you strip away the pretense, you'll often find a different truth. You were simply running from the shame. The shame of being seen as weak, or afraid, or small. That shame is a shadow you carry everywhere, and it can be a devastating weapon in the hands of someone who knows how to use it, or worse, it can turn into a weapon you use against yourself. This is the true cost of the illusion of control. You're so busy fighting the world, you don't realize you're already a prisoner of your own past. The desire for power isn't always about dominance. Often, it's a desperate attempt to compensate for a feeling of powerlessness. The constant need for more isn't greed, it's a profound sense of incompleteness. Elias thought he was building an empire, but he was actually just building a wall around his deepest insecurities. A wall that was about to collapse. He was a prisoner to the very ambition that he believed made him free. But that's only the surface. The real danger hides deeper. The air in the room grew heavy, a silent pressure building between Elias and the hum of the city. He looked at me then, his eyes a confession. I don't even know if I want this deal, he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. But I'm terrified of what happens if I say no. That's the moment you step out of the illusion of choice and into the cold reality of a silent master. What feels like freedom is a profound deception, designed to keep you trapped in a loop. Think about the pursuit of a goal, the struggle, the sacrifice, the long nights. You tell yourself this is the price of success, that you are a warrior fighting for your destiny. But most men don't realize they're not fighting for a destination at all, they're fighting to stay on a predetermined track. The moment of choice, whether to take the deal, marry the right person, or climb the next corporate ladder, is a masterfully crafted illusion. The actual choice was made long ago, by a part of you that's more primal, more fearful, and more ashamed than you're willing to admit. That's the silent master we're talking about. The part of you that is so desperate to avoid shame, so starved for validation, that it has already chosen your path for you. It lays out two options for you, A and B, and both of them lead to the same dead end. You believe you're exercising your free will by picking one, but the truth is, you were never given the option to walk away. You were never given the option to simply stop. This is the hidden key to power. Not the ability to choose between two pre-selected doors, but the quiet courage to see that there's a third door, the locked door, the one you were told to never even look at. That door leads to the unsettling truth about yourself, the part of you that craves not power, but peace, not validation, but genuine self-worth. Elias wasn't afraid of losing the deal. He was terrified of what would be left of him if he finally admitted that the whole race was a lie, that the finish line was never what he thought it was. He was at the precipice of real freedom, the kind that feels like falling into a terrifying abyss. But that's only the surface. The real danger hides deeper. The silence between us was no longer a void, but a mirror reflecting the truth of Elias's struggle. He looked down at his hands, calloused from years of building his empire, and whispered, "What if I'm not the man I thought I was?" That is the moment a man first glances at the forbidden reflection, the raw, unedited version of himself he's been avoiding his entire life. The desire you fight hardest is the one that owns you, revealed in a quiet moment of honesty. We are taught to suppress our dark desires, the thirst for revenge, the urge for control, the raw, unapologetic parts of our nature. We are told these are weaknesses to be conquered, but in reality, by fighting them, you give them immense power. They don't disappear, they go underground, they become the shadow, and from the shadows, they can manipulate every single one of your conscious decisions. Elias was so busy fighting the desire to walk away from the deal, to choose peace over power, that he was blind to the fact that this very conflict was the engine of his misery. The part of him that wanted to be quiet, to be content, was a desire he had deemed weak, a flaw he had to overcome. This is the central paradox. Every man thinks he's in control until he learns this unsettling truth. The very thing you are running from is the thing that dictates your path. The more you deny a part of yourself, the louder it screams from the unseen corners of your mind. It shows up in your anxiety, in your sudden flashes of anger, in your inexplicable impulses. It's the reason a man with a perfect life will suddenly risk everything for a fleeting moment of chaos. He's not just making a mistake, he's answering a call he's been trying to ignore. This isn't about being good or bad. It's about being whole. Most men spend their lives trying to amputate the parts of themselves they were told were unacceptable. They create a carefully curated version of themselves for the world to see, a symbolic armor of success and strength, but inside, they are still fighting with their own ghosts. And a man fighting an internal war has no real power in the external world. He is simply a pawn, moving on a board dictated by his own unresolved conflicts. But that's only the surface. The real danger hides deeper. The air conditioning unit in the corner hummed, a low, mechanical pulse that seemed to beat in time with Elias's own rising tension. He picked up his glass, ran a thumb over the rim, but didn't drink. "So, what's the point?" he asked, his voice raw. "That I'm a puppet, that everyone is. That's the question every man asks when he first sees the strings. It leads to the unsettling truth about the currency of control. Every man thinks he's in control until he learns this. The currency of power isn't money, or status, or influence. Those are just the tools. The real currency is emotional debt. It's the debts you owe to others, and more importantly, the debts you owe to yourself, the need for approval from a parent. The fear of being seen as a failure by your peers, the internal promise you made long ago to never be like someone else. These are not just memories, they are liabilities, and they are the very things that someone or something can use to control you. Elias's father was a man who lived a life of quiet humility. Elias, in a desperate bid to avoid what he saw as his father's failure, had spent his life accumulating power and wealth. But that wasn't a choice, it was a debt he owed to his own shame. He was paying off a past he couldn't accept, and the payment was his present. Most men don't realize this is how power truly works. It's not about gaining things, it's about managing debt. A man who owes nothing to anyone, who has no emotional debts to pay, is a truly dangerous force. He cannot be bribed with praise, coerced with guilt, or manipulated with shame. He is, for all intents and purposes, free. But the vast majority of us are not free. We are constantly making decisions, taking actions, and living lives that are, at their core, just attempts to pay down our emotional ledgers. We chase success to feel worthy. We seek out admiration to feel loved. We pursue power to feel secure, and with every decision, we only add to the debt. The flickering neon lights outside seemed to mock us. Elias's face, reflected in the glass, was a mask of confusion. He was beginning to see that the deal he was about to sign wasn't a triumph. It was a final, desperate attempt to pay off a debt that could never be settled. He was a prisoner of a currency he didn't even know existed. But that's only the surface. The real danger hides deeper. The city outside had become a blur of light and color, a silent storm raging on. Elias's hand, still on the glass, was trembling slightly. "So the ambition isn't mine?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "It's someone else's." That's the question that leads a man to the architects of his own ambition. They never told you the void you feel is the silent master orchestrating your every move. Most men are driven by a profound, unacknowledged emptiness, a void they've been trying to fill since they were children. This isn't about a lack of love or success, it's a more fundamental absence, the absence of a core, unwavering sense of self. We're taught to build our identity on external things, our careers, our relationships, our accomplishments. We construct a self based on what we're told we should be, but beneath it all, there's a gaping hole. And the moment that void is there, it becomes a target. This is where the silent masters enter the stage. The societal pressures, the expectations of your family, the images you see in media, they all know about your void. And they offer you a solution, a template. They tell you that if you just get the right car, the right job, the right partner, that emptiness will finally disappear. They don't fill the void, they just give you a blueprint for a life that will keep you so busy you won't have time to notice the hole is still there. Elias thought he was an innovator, a risk taker, a man who built his own destiny. But in a quiet, unsettling moment, he realized he was just following a script, the script of what a successful man is supposed to be. His ambition wasn't his own, it was a ghost-written project, a desperate attempt to fill a void that external success could never touch. He was running a race he didn't sign up for, toward a finish line that was never real. He was a prisoner of his own ambition, an ambition that wasn't even his to begin with. But that's only the surface. The real danger hides deeper. The air was thick with the weight of this new, unsettling truth. Elias had gone from a man of decisive action to a statue, frozen by the reality that his life was built on someone else's foundation. He looked out at the city, the grid of lights and concrete, and a bitter, quiet laugh escaped him. "So what do I do? Just stop?" he asked, the word hanging in the air. That's the question that leads to the seduction of submission. What feels like choice is actually the negotiation you make with your own shadow. Every man, at some point, has had to negotiate with the darker parts of himself, the parts that crave power, validation, or control. We're told to fight these parts, to dominate them, but the shadow is not something you can kill. It's an integral, powerful part of who you are, and when you try to suppress it, it finds other ways to exert its will. The most common way, it convinces you that your submission to a false path is a choice. It whispers to you that your restless ambition is a virtue, that your need for external approval is a healthy drive. It frames your compliance as freedom, making you a willing participant in your own imprisonment. Most men are seduced by this. They believe that by conquering their primal urges, they have become a better, more evolved man, but they've only surrendered to a more sophisticated form of control. They've traded a raw, honest inner conflict for a quiet, debilitating acceptance of a predetermined script. This isn't liberation, this is a profound and subtle form of self-betrayal. Elias thought he was fighting for his empire, but he was really just negotiating with his own shadow, promising it more and more success if it would just keep his inner truth quiet. He was a prisoner of his own negotiation. But that's only the surface. The real danger hides deeper. The room was silent again, but this time it was a different kind of quiet, not the quiet of a man lost, but the quiet of a man seeing for the first time. Elias picked up his phone, stared at the contact for the deal he was about to sign, and then slowly put it back down. He was on the edge of a great and terrible precipice. He was facing the unlocking of the cage. Most men don't realize the key to freedom is accepting the part of you they told you to kill. We are all given a set of rules for what a good or successful a man is supposed to be. And every man, at some point, has had to suppress a part of himself to fit that mold. Maybe it was the part of you that wanted to be an artist instead of a businessman. Or the part that craved a simple, quiet life instead of a life of constant striving. That part of you, the authentic, uncurated self, was labeled a liability, a weakness, a thing to be silenced. But that part of you is not dead. It's simply locked away, and the key to unlocking that cage isn't found in more ambition, more success, or more control. It's found in quiet, unsettling acceptance. It's the moment you finally admit to yourself that the person you've been pretending to be is a prison. It's the moment you stop fighting the parts of yourself you were told were unacceptable and start listening to them. Elias was on the verge of this. He was beginning to see that the deal he was about to sign was not a victory. It was a final, desperate attempt to lock his true self away forever. He was ready to pay for his freedom with the very thing he had been told was his life's purpose. This isn't about giving up or becoming weak. This is about real strength. The strength to choose your own path, even when it's the path you've been told to avoid your entire life. Elias was finally seeing the cage he had built, and he was holding the key, but that's only the surface. The real danger hides deeper. The air was no longer tense, but still, a quiet, unsettling acceptance settled over the room. Elias finally put his glass down, the sound of it on the table a soft click in the silence. The look in his eyes was one of profound relief, mixed with a deep, weary sadness. What feels like clarity is the unsettling acceptance of the dark wisdom you've always known. This is the quiet aftermath. The moment when the battle is over, not because you won, but because you finally saw that you were fighting yourself. Elias was not a failure for considering walking away from his empire. He was a success for finally seeing it for what it was, a cage he had built with his own two hands. He was a prisoner to a life he thought he wanted, and the freedom he had been chasing was not in the future, but in a choice he was too afraid to make in the present. Most men spend their entire lives in this state of quiet conflict, never reaching this point of acceptance. They continue to fight, to strive, to chase a horizon that is always out of reach. They will tell you it is their ambition, their drive. But it is only a fear of the quiet, the fear of being alone with their own truth, the fear of what they might find in the reflection of their own silence. This dark wisdom, the one that tells you your deepest fears are not weaknesses but guides, is not a comfortable truth. It is a terrifying one. It means that the life you've built, the success you've achieved, the identity you've so carefully crafted, might all be a lie. It means that the path forward is not a path of more, but a path of less. It is a stripping away, a letting go. Elias was not at peace. He was on the edge of a new kind of war, a battle to rebuild his life on the foundation of his own truth, not on the shifting sands of others' expectations. But that's only the surface. The real danger hides deeper. The room was quiet now, save for the faint, steady sound of rain outside. Elias finally looked at me, a calm in his eyes that wasn't there before. A man who had just dismantled his own life's work in his mind. This is the new vision. They never told you the most powerful knowledge is seeing the world not as it is, but as it truly operates beneath the surface. This isn't about being a cynic, it's about becoming a realist. Most men see the world as a series of facts, transactions, relationships, promotions, but a man who has faced his own shadow and seen the strings pulling his life knows that the world is not about the facts. It's about the underlying currents, the unspoken debts, the unacknowledged desires, the profound shame that drives every decision. Elias no longer saw the deal as a business opportunity. He saw it as a desperate attempt by a terrified man to prove his worth. He no longer saw his rival as an enemy, but as another player, trapped in a different version of the same game. This is the power you have been searching for. The power to see beyond the surface, to look at a man and not just see his success, but to see the silent debt he's paying. To look at a woman and not just see her desire, but to see the unacknowledged void she's trying to fill. This is not about control, it's about understanding. It's about being so intimately familiar with the hidden machinery of human nature that you can no longer be manipulated by it. You can no longer be controlled by the whispers of shame or the seduction of ambition. You are finally free. This is not the end of the journey, it is the beginning, a quiet, terrifying, and deeply powerful new beginning. Tonight, when you face your reflection, you'll see the part of you they told you to kill, but it never left. Take a slow breath in the quiet of this moment. As the screen fades to black, know this: you are not who they told you you were. You are not the sum of your achievements, or your failures, or the debts you've spent your life paying. You are the one who saw the strings, the one who heard the whispers, the one who, in the dark, had the courage to face the forbidden reflection. That part of you, the part they told you to kill, never left. It's still there, waiting for you. This isn't the end of your story, it's the end of a lie. The real journey begins now. If this video helped you see the world a little differently, if it gave you a glimpse of the real game, then like and subscribe. And in the comments below, I want you to share one truth you've been running from. This isn't for me, this is for you. This is the first step toward reclaiming your power. It's time to stop chasing shadows and start walking in the light, your light.